Do you know that feeling that no matter how hard you try, you always end up getting involved with people who don't know how to, or don't want to, offer you real love? Well, that's not bad luck or coincidence. And yes, there is an emotional root behind it. The most shocking thing? Often, those who attract emotionally unavailable people also have, without realizing it, enormous difficulty in being emotionally available to themselves. The truth is harsh, but liberating. As long as you don't look at your wounds, those that come from childhood, emotional abandonment, lack of affection, fear of rejection, you will continue to be trapped in the same cycle of frustrated relationships, toxic bonds, and repetitions that only make you doubt your own worth. And do you know what's most cruel? Your brain now thinks that this suffering is love, and maybe you've never heard it so clearly. But this is exactly where your liberation begins. Because once you understand why you attract those who hurt you, you also discover how to break this pattern of self-sabotage, recover your self-esteem, and for the first time, become emotionally available to experience real, light, safe, and reciprocal love. You know that feeling that, no matter how hard you try, you always end up attracting emotionally unavailable people? It's no coincidence. When a woman grows up in an environment where love, validation, and emotional presence were absent, her brain learns, without realizing it, that love tastes like absence, coldness, and distance. And the cruelest thing? What is familiar becomes comfortable, even if it hurts. That's why, without realizing it, she automatically feels attracted to those who don't deliver, those who don't choose, those who always seem to have one foot out of the relationship. In practice, this translates into frustrated relationships, where she gives a lot, receives little, and spends her life trying to understand where she went wrong. And no, it's not bad luck. It has everything to do with a deep root, the wound of emotional abandonment, which has shaped the way she perceives love and connection. For those who experience this, it's common to think, why can't I like someone who likes me? And look, it makes perfect sense. When constant affection has never existed, the nervous system adapts to surviving in the midst of lack, doubt, and uncertainty. This creates a repetitive pattern, looking outside for what has always been missing inside. And you know what's most intriguing? This explains very well what comes next. There is a silent and very treacherous mistake that traps many women in cycles of frustrated relationships, confusing anxiety with connection. You know that chill in your stomach, that restlessness, that constant fear of being rejected. That's right. That's not love. That's a clear sign that your anxious attachment system is activated. And guess who activates it masterfully? Precisely people who are emotionally unavailable. In practice, it's as if the brain is saying, if I'm insecure, it's because I like it too much. But no. This is actually emotional trauma disguised as passion. It's that unhealthy attachment that traps you in a roller coaster of ups and downs, where every crumb of attention becomes a feast, and every disappearance, torture. And of course, your body gets used to this dynamic, unwittingly reinforcing this repetitive pattern of pain and lack of affection. To get out of this cycle, you first have to learn to differentiate between love and anxiety. And that starts when you ask yourself, do I feel safe? Am I calm? Am I at peace around this person? Because if the answer is no, then it's not a real connection. And look, understanding this changes everything, especially when we start to realize another, much deeper detail that hides behind this invisible addiction to being chosen. A silent wound that causes many women to lose themselves in dysfunctional relationships. The unconscious obsession with being chosen. From an early age, those who grew up dealing with emotional abandonment and neediness have learned that love is not something you get, but something you earn. And guess what? This creates an emotional addiction, where she feels attracted precisely to those who don't offer easy love, reinforcing this cycle of self-sabotage. In practice, she enters into a dynamic of, if I do more, he'll want me. If I'm better, he'll choose me. And without realizing it, she puts herself in toxic bonds, trying to prove her worth all the time. This can happen when she accepts emotional crumbs, ignores red flags, or even accepts humiliation, all in the hope of finally being validated, recognized, and perhaps loved. To break this pattern, we need to recover something that was stolen from us, a sense of self-worth. And a simple, but very powerful first step is to take an emotional inventory. She can, for example, ask herself, how many times in my life have I put myself in the background hoping to be chosen? Because it's only when she realizes this pattern that she really begins to understand why her nervous system has become addicted, not to love, but to pain disguised as hope. There is something that few people realize. Her body has become accustomed to chaos. Frustrated relationships, fear of intimacy, toxic bonds. All this doesn't just happen in the mind, it's imprinted on the nervous system. When she grew up in environments where love was synonymous with absence, rejection, or instability, her brain learned that this is familiar, and, incredible as it may seem, the familiar is interpreted as safe, even when it hurts. That's why often when someone is available, loving, and present, she feels bored. Strange, right? But it makes total sense for those who carry an unconscious programming where love is more like anxiety, doubts, and the constant feeling of being ignored. So when someone comes along who offers calm, stability, and security, her brain sounds an internal alarm. This is strange. It doesn't feel like love. And without understanding, she loses interest. To start changing this, she needs to reprogram her nervous system. And this is not self-help talk. In practice, it means learning to feel comfortable with the discomfort of healthy love. It can start with small actions, allowing yourself to be cared for without trying to reciprocate immediately, accepting compliments without feeling uncomfortable, and above all, observing when your body tries to sabotage something good by calling it a lack of chemistry. Because deep down, it's not a lack of chemistry, it's a lack of habit. And here comes a truth that, more often than not, hurts, but frees. As long as she keeps looking to others for what she can't offer herself, such as love, acceptance, care, validation, and presence, she will remain trapped in the same repetitive patterns. And you know what's crazy? Deep down, she's also been emotionally unavailable to herself. She's always abandoning herself, criticizing herself, putting herself last, waiting for someone else to fill the void. And the question she needs to start asking herself is, in what ways have I been rejecting myself? Because it's very easy to see emotional abandonment coming from others. But what about self-abandonment? It appears when she accepts crumbs, when she ignores her own feelings, when she doesn't set limits, when she keeps quiet so as not to displease. All this reinforces the cycle of emotional neediness, fear of rejection, and self-sabotage. The wound she's carrying won't be healed by the person who caused it, nor by the person who replicates it. The healing is internal. In practice, this means starting to practice real self-love, and not that aesthetic self-love of Instagram posts. It means asking yourself every day, what do I need today? What am I feeling? What can I do to welcome myself now? It's choosing to treat yourself the way you would choose to treat someone you love very much. And little by little, this personal rescue transforms the relationship she has with herself, and as a consequence, completely changes the way she relates to the world. Now tell me, does it make sense to you to realize how these emotional wounds, which often go unnoticed, are behind this cycle of attracting emotionally unavailable people? Because if there's one truth that no one has told you, it's this. Until you choose yourself, accept yourself, and learn to be emotionally available to yourself, you'll continue to be trapped in these toxic bonds, in this loop of rejection, lack of affection, and dysfunctional relationships. So look at your life and ask yourself, how long will you accept crumbs? How long will you normalize emotional abandonment, low self-esteem, and frustrated relationships? You deserve much more than that. And transformation begins the moment you decide to break this cycle. The rescue is internal, it's yours, it's now. And if this content has helped you in any way, here's what you need to do. Subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and above all, comment below. Tell me, do you realize that these patterns are active in your life? I really want to know your story, your perception, your reflections. And of course, follow me here. Because this is just the beginning of your journey of self-healing, self-love, and emotional liberation.